with that, it was an active weekend for Lamar, not only hanging out in Kentucky in his old stomping grounds at the Kentucky Derby, having went to Louisville, but he was pretty active on Twitter, Sarah, and it all stemmed from Warren Sharp's deep dive, analytical, statistical analysis that he put out on Lamar's 2025 and just how freaking special it really was. Take a look. Lamar was number one in EPA per attempt, which tracks efficiency, in the following categories. I mean, should I rip through these for the audio-only audience?
Give Lamar his due.
Throwing outside the numbers, which used to be a knock of his. Throwing one outside the pocket. Early downs without play action. Throwing when kept clean. Versus all of zone coverage that he sees. Versus too high in the fourth quarter. When passing within 2.5 seconds. Getting that ball out of his hand and inside the red zone. He was top 5. By the way, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different categories that Warren did research on. He was top 5 in the following categories. So again, he went from number 1 in those to top 5 in these. Throwing between the numbers. All short and intermediate attempts. When pressured. Throwing inside the pocket. Third and fourth downs, money downs. And throwing with play action.
Ooh.
Sarah, first of all, we don't have enough time to get through the entire thread, but this was about as in-depth as you can possibly go on what made Lamar and the Ravens tick last year. And I think Lamar was ticking reading it because he quote tweeted Warren and he goes, all for nothing? Let's turn it up a notch in caps. Hashtag 2526. Hashtag patiently waiting. Can it actually be turned up a notch, partner?
Yes, it can get turned up a notch. Yes, and I'm going to outline exactly how it can be turned up a notch. But I love that he's turning it up a notch. Like, and later somebody responded back to him, no, it's not all for nothing. He's like, God's got a plan. And Lamar's like, that's right, he's got a plan. But when he puts hashtag patiently waiting and he's got that all in caps, there is nobody that wants the 2025 season to begin quicker than Lamar Jackson. There might be some people like King Henry that want it to start too, but Lamar, yes, it can be turned up a notch. We've seen this time and time again. Why put a ceiling on him when he wins MVP in his sophomore year and then has an even better MVP season? And then last year has an even better season, doesn't win MVP, should have, could have, would have, if it weren't some dumb voting procedures. I'm telling you, it's because of voter fatigue. I know that. Whatever. So yes, I believe he can turn it up a notch. And where it needs to specifically be turned up a notch, Bobby, is in the playoffs. Warren Sharp, and Warren Sharp pinpoints exactly. Listen, we know big picture what the Ravens' problem is in the playoffs. Turnovers. They just don't even look like themselves. They just don't look like themselves. They have turnovers, whether it's Lamar's turnovers or Zay Flowers' turnovers or Mark Andrews' turnovers, or whether it's the defense not creating turnovers. It's turnovers. But since this is a deep dive on Lamar Jackson, Warren Sharp digs even deeper and figures out even more in the playoffs of what Lamar and the team as a whole need to fix in the playoffs. And he said, for everyone who slams Lamar in the playoffs, just be aware of this. So he talks about how good Lamar is in the playoffs too. All those numbers you just gave, those were throughout the season. Now he's drilling in on what's going on in the playoffs. He says, anyone that slams Lamar in the playoffs, be aware of this. Out of 19 quarterbacks with 50-plus attempts in the playoffs since 2021, Lamar ranks number 4 in yards per attempt, number 6 in EPA per play, number 6 in completion rate, and number 7 in success. Okay? He's not trash in the playoffs. Okay? Even though the Ravens aren't winning as much as they should. And then he wants, Warren Sharp does, you to have more context. What's going on? He said Lamar faces in the playoffs the NFL's number 1 highest rate of blitzes of any quarterbacks in the playoffs. He's at 53%. Bobby, he's being blitzed more than half the time. He says the average in the playoffs is 26%, almost a quarter of the time. So Lamar's getting blitzed over half the time. The average is about a quarter of the time. So that's less than half of what Lamar is being blitzed. He gives you some context. Let's take Joe Burrow. He said Joe Burrow is blitzed on 15% of the dropbacks. Okay. Now, here's some more information. I didn't pull this, Bobby, but so when Lamar is not blitzed, he's number 1 in the playoffs in EPA per pass, number 1 in success rate, and number 1 in yards per attempt. So on all the times he's not blitzed, he's number 1 in all those things. Okay. Here's a little bit more context. We're going to put them together at the end. Okay. More that you should be aware of in the playoffs. Lamar faces the highest rate of man coverage of any quarterback in the playoffs, and it's exactly at 50%. So half the time he gets man coverage. How does that compare to the average? Well, it's 27%. Again, almost a quarter. So it's, again, almost half of what Lamar faces. Here's an example for context. Josh Allen, he faces man coverage on just 17% of dropbacks. Okay. So when Lamar is against zone, can you take a guess of where he ranks in EPA per pass, success rate, and yards per pass? Just take a guess of where he ranks in zone against zone coverage.
Top 3.
Number 1.
Top 2. Yeah.
Number 1. So here we are. That's why they're showing him man, and that's why they're blitzing. Because when he's not in those two things, he's number 1 again. So that is why Warren Sharp says that Lamar, and he put in caps, dominated versus everything except for man blitzes. You put it together. Man coverage, and blitzing. He's only 1 of 10 attempts against the Bills. When it was against the Bills, he was 1 of 10 when the Bills used man blitz. So what's the takeaway outside of just like stop turning the ball over, everybody, and the defense create turnovers, everybody over there? He's saying the Ravens must devote a large portion of this offseason to solve man blitzes on Lamar Jackson. He says he's statistically the number 1 best quarterback in all other situations, and no quarterback sees more man blitzes than Lamar. And he said by now the Ravens should know that, and they should expect it. And he said they need to better be prepared schematically to punish teams who try man blitzes. He says that the Ravens figure out not just how to survive on man blitzes, but to thrive against them, he says defenses will be more apprehensive in dialing him up, and then they give him the other looks that he's number 1 in the playoffs since 2019. So that's the main focus, in addition to just stopping those turnovers and creating turnovers. Figure this out, Todd Monken, John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, the offensive line, receivers, everybody. Man blitzes, that's got to be a major point that they look at this offseason.
I'm old enough to remember they had no answer several years ago for the cover 0 blitz that Miami was deploying at them. It was rearing its ugly head on a Thursday night game down there in South Florida, and they figured it out. And so this is no different. Yes, it's different strategy and different ways to combat it. But that had Lamar's number at the time, much like these man blitzes do right now. And now it's up for Todd Monken and this offensive staff to find a way to have answers for it, right? How many answers can you get Lamar? Lamar's all quarterbacks constantly searching for answers when it comes to the processing of the game. And I have no doubt that they'll find a way to do exactly that in this category. It was Derby weekend down there at Louisville, Kentucky Derby, of course. And Lamar made sure that he was dressed appropriately. He was eating appropriately. Looks like that's some sort of shrimp pasta dish, maybe.
That looks good.
Looks something like that. But how about the almost like a seersucker type of blue? Gosh, you know how it goes when we're trying to evaluate style. I have no idea what he's wearing, but it looks like it's some sort of seersucker.
Yeah.
And he's looking clean. Look at the shoes. Look like with the red laces. I wonder if that is Louisville themed. Jay Bum says it's shrimp Alfredo for what it's worth there. That is a Louisville-based Italian restaurant. So he was seen not only hanging around town, but also on the red carpet. Ty Spalding took some Instagram photos here from Susie Eastman's account. Lamar looking clean. Churchill Downs. He typically makes this event. I don't know if he's ever... Has he ever been to a Preakness? I feel like he's
I
been
feel
to
like
at
he
least
has.
one Preakness.
No, remember that was the picture where Charlie Kohler showed up with the cornrows, and all of them were like, "What the?" He was
Oh,
there.
yeah. That was,
Yeah,
not last year, but I think the year
maybe
prior.
2 years ago.
I
But
know
I love
Ray.
this. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I know. I think Ray's going to be heavily involved this year. So,
Okay. Well, this picture all the way on the left that he posted on his Instagram is cracking me up. Where he's like, "I'm ready for today." You know, hats are the name of the game at these horse races. I don't even know how to describe this one. But for those who were wondering, Susie Eastman, who he's posing here on with the on the red carpet, she is a kind of like documentary / short filmmaker. She went to Louisville. She's like the director of a Louisville film kind of society thing over there, the organization. So I'm guessing that they had some ties back from maybe she did some videos of him when he was there playing. Look at them. They're throwing up their Louisville L's. And for those wondering, just back on this one where he said hashtag L1C4, I don't know if you explained that, Bobby, but we finally figured it out. I'm sure Louisville people know what it is, but it's Louisville first, Cardinal forever. So showing his love to his college days. Fun weekend.
coined by the great Rick Pitino back in 2012. At least that's what Google told me. And live chat is telling us that his kicks that he's wearing here, Nikes, are dunks. Tim says it's dunks. Cameron says it's dunks. Zone 16 says dunks are mid. No idea why, and no idea what dunks are, but they are clean, and he's looking clean as heck, as usual. But
and
yeah.
isn't the what's the show that he's starring on? I think that airs this week. Can't remember the name. Chat, help us out. It's the HBO show that they've teased.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm not talking about the cold plunge stuff with
Raising Kazan.
There we go.
Raising Canaan.
There you go.
Yep, he's going to appear in one episode.
I think it's coming up this week.
E-Tone. Yeah, Friday. So I think it was Friday. Somebody said it was Friday. So there you have it.
There we go.
But yeah, it is a fun time when the Triple Crown is alive and well, and it starts in Kentucky. It'll be here in Baltimore at Pimlico in a couple weeks. Or is it at Pimlico this year? Is it at Pimlico or Laurel? Chat. How about here? Because I typically try to go. Obviously, I mean it's one of those Baltimore things that you can't not miss. But it just so happens to be the day of my brother's graduation at Loyola, so I really haven't looked into it the same way that I typically do. It's either at Pimlico or Laurel, or maybe a combination of both between that and the Black Eyed Susan. But I just haven't paid attention as much as I should. So I'm sure the chat will figure it out. If you guys got plans, hopefully you enjoy yourselves. It's an iconic weekend for Baltimore. We got a couple super chats on our way out of here.